Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks. My name is Eric. I'm here with Phil, aka Michelle Lynn. And yeah, today we wanted to share some ideas on restaurant organization. But before that,
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
so Phil, how do you organize yourself in a kitchen? Do you use paper or do you use softwares or apps? And what's your approach on this tools? Like, for example, your to-do list. Do you do it in the evening for the next day after service, or you do it when you arrive, or half, or how is your like normal day organization, like in a routine where you build up your prep and everything?
So, I use a mix of things. I use apps for certain things. I use paper for other things. Talking about prep lists, I think it's the best for years now that you do a prep list in the evening. I think after a service, you are most in tune with what is where, how many portions you have sold of what you're running low of, what you need to prioritize, all that sort of stuff. It's all fresh. It's all fresh in your head. In the morning when you come in, it's less fresh. I used to write prep lists by hand. Nowadays, I like having a printed out prep list. I like to do it in a way where I make a graph or a table more like, where I put sections of dishes, and in that section, I will put every ingredient or like every component that I need for the dish.
So like every dish is it's a list on its own. It's a checklist of the components you need to have for that dish.
Correct. And it might be preparations. It might be, certain things.
Turn the oven on or something like that. Or
yeah, could be like, I know that for this dish, I need a container with a little brush, because at the very end, I'm going to dust the powder over it. So I need the brush to brush it as part of my setup, right? So at night, I would fill in what I need where. Usually I have the name of the components, whether I'll be sort of like, I need some roasted leeks, I need some lemon confit, I need this, I need that, I need blah. And I will leave a section where I can write how much of it I need, right? Like 1 recipe, 2 recipes, 20 portions, whatever it is, right? So maybe I have a couple of portions left from the night before that I can rotate. But regardless of that, I'll fill that in at night. In the morning, the first thing that I do, if I'm a chef de partie, if I'm setting up a section, is I go through my section. I go through my section again. I open up everything. I get a lay of the land. This is especially important if you do a handover, right? We have this problem all the time. When you're in bigger kitchens where people are handing over sections, the person that was there in the night, ideally you're scheduled on so that you don't do a clopening. Clopening being you close and you open, right? We all love clopenings.
6 hours sleep.
You can look at the prep list, but don't take it for granted. Like, you have to get a hold of your section. You have to grab the bull by the horns. You have to be in control. You have to know what's where. It's impossible that I come to you and I say, hey, where is the vinaigrettes? And you have to start looking for it. You should know where it is. You should know that it's in the bottom drawer on the left-hand side, because you checked your section, you know where everything is. To me, it's already like an alarm bell. If I ask a chef de partie or demi chef himself, like, hey, can I have a little bit of your vinaigrette? And he's like, where is it? And it's like 11:30, and I'm like, that is not a good sign.
Okay, let's say you built your station, you went through your checklist. Do you do like all these checks on your own, or do you find like a peer and you do it like together, or how does it work best for you?
It really depends. That's the job of a chef de partie, right? So for people who don't know, the old school kitchen structure still maintains, prevalent internationally to this day, where you move up from the bottom of the chain of command. You have the commies, they're basically the lowest cooks, to the demi chefs, then the chef de parties. Chef de parties are basically the head chef of their little section. So if you're the chef de partie of the garde-manger, you are basically the head chef of the little like starter section. And that is what you manage. And you have a demi-chef, which is basically like your sous chef, who will be a fairly like experienced cook with a couple of years of experience. And you have a commie, which will be a very young, green, not young necessarily, but like young, inexperienced, very green, very fresh cook. And you manage those. So you, as a chef de partie, you delegate the tasks to the people on your section. And then as you move up in the kitchen, you become a junior sous chef, and then eventually a head chef, right? And a sous chef then looks over the chef de parties and makes sure that they're working, and the head chef looks over everything, right? So it's a gradual climb. But so for me, it's important that the chef de party manages this. And if there is no chef de party present, as there's a commie or a demi chef, there needs to be the most important thing, one of the most important things, top two most important things in the kitchen: communication.
Absolutely.
Communication. It's kind of like, okay, you make yourself responsible, especially when you're a demi chef. You should do this anyway. You say, okay, I come in, I check everything, I make myself a list of what I think I need to do. If I don't have a chef de party, I will go to a sous chef and I will say, hey, this is my plan for today. What do you think? And it either gets approved or not. It's important because time management is so crucial, right? A lot of people don't really understand. Like, I think they understand the concept, but they don't understand the reality of it. Is that what makes cooking at a high level so stressful is that you have all these little timers that are going off at different times. You know, you have timers that, say you come in at 9 o'clock, lunch service starts at 12. That's a timer. That's a 3-hour timer that's ticking down. Tick, 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 tick. You have to make it until 12 o'clock. You have to. Unnegotiable. So the things that you have to do to be set up need to happen in those 3 hours. Then you kind of start looking at the amount of prep that you have, and you say, like, okay, I have to braise these ox cheeks. Already you're in the shit because that takes longer than 3 hours, no? But say you have something that takes a long time, right? I need to reduce the stock. It's going to take me at least an hour and a half because I need to reduce it slowly. That should be your priority. If that's another timer, hour and a half, tick, 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 you need to fit that into those 3 hours. And then you prioritize all these jobs that take the longest. You try to get them working simultaneously as much as you can. And you leave all the little things to the end so that you can get the most amount of work done in that time. And then obviously those timers, they continue into service from ticket to ticket, from dish to dish, and they just multiply and multiply and multiply. And there's a lot of things to keep track of. And there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress.
And this is something a teacher told me when I was studying design. And I said that I was working in a kitchen in a restaurant. And he said, like, by definition, chefs are very good project managers. You know, I'm not sure if I'm a great project manager, but for sure, I've never crossed a deadline. You know, like, you make it on time. Doesn't matter how. You know, like, you just...
Yes.
You need to figure it out. You know, like, there are, like, millions of ways. Phil, do you recommend podcasts to your friends?
All the time. The best way of showing friends that you care is recommending a great podcast to listen to.
I agree. If you're listening right now, you should show your love by recommending our show to all your best friends. It will make them happy. It will make us happy.
Potluck Food Talks. Tell your friends. It will make the world a better place.
You do use some apps or software. Like, which ones are for what, or in which context do you use digital tools?
There's a lot of like technology that I've seen that is very helpful in kitchens. And, you know, you specifically, you work in a lot of those sort of things as well. While they are really great and I see a lot of value in them, I don't use that many. Not because I don't want to, just because it's not really given right now in the environment that I'm in. But I wouldn't be opposed to. But I use apps for all HR related things. But apart from that, honestly, like costing, scheduling, vacation planning, I use Excel. You know, like, it's pretty old school. Like, I have a system that works for me that like calculates the stuff. I used to, you know, you have to use scheduling apps these days. It has to be like, especially, you know, you have to keep track of something. You know, the hours need to be calculated, etc. It's important.
Yeah, and also by law, it's also like a good way to...
Yes.
Accountability. Yeah, for accountability reasons, you need to have like some evidence that you can show, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. The thing is that, like, what I found, me personally, is that a lot of these apps are a little bit poorly designed. If I need to manage 6-7 different sections, and on each section in one day, I have 3 to 4 people working, it's very hard for me to keep an overview. Are there enough people scheduled on every day for lunch? Are there enough people scheduled on every day for dinner? it gets often, you would be surprised. You'd think somebody would make an effort to make it like super easy to view this. But you have to imagine, in my kitchen team, there's almost 40 chefs at some point. It's like between 30 and 40 chefs, a lot of fucking people. But I need to be able to take a step back and look at the week and just kind of browse through. I have enough people for breakfast. I have enough people for lunch. I have enough people for dinner. I have enough people for prep. So for that, it's very, very useful.
And you said you use Excel for your costs. What do you have, like a table somebody gave you at some point, and that's the one you use, or how cost calculation, pricing, and all of this?
Yeah, correct. I have a table that Katie gave me at one point, which is very useful, like 10 years ago or something like that. But it's good because it does very simple things, right? So for people who don't understand how costing works in a restaurant, say you have a dish, there's a steak, there's some French fries seasoned with rosemary salt, there's a salad dressed with a vinaigrette, right? And there's maybe a sauce. So the steak is easily calculated, right? You get a piece of meat in, it costs a certain amount. You lose a certain amount of that meat because you have to trim it off and you have to portion it. And then what you're left with, you divide, and that portion is the cost of the meat, right? Very easy. With French fries, for example, it starts getting a little bit more tricky because you need to calculate the tomatoes, but what you use to season it, you use a rosemary salt. Okay, so now you have to make a separate recipe for the rosemary salt because you need to know how much the rosemary salt costs. The rosemary salt maybe consists of sea salt, rosemary, and like, let's say something else, garlic powder, MSG, four things, right? You need to make a recipe. How much of those ingredients go into a recipe of rosemary salt? And then that recipe you need to divide by how many portions it gives you. So let's say if I make 100 grams of rosemary salt, I need to know how many servings of fries I can season with this. Same for the salad. What goes into the salad? You need to break down all the ingredients. You need to break down the wastage. Then you need to make a separate recipe for the dressing. What goes into your dressing? How many portions? What percentage of that dressing goes into the salad? And so, not to go on and on about this, but like a simple recipe for a restaurant is a lot of fucking work. If you want to actually control the cost, you want to actually know what's going on, at some point you can like eyeball it. I don't recommend that to anybody. If you actually want to know what it is that you're spending on food and what it is that you need to charge, this is exactly what you have to do. And this table does that exactly for me. I can put in a recipe. I can in a little window say, okay, this gives me this amount of portions. It calculates straight away what one portion of this would cost. So I can take that and straight away input it into another like full dish thing. But also it gives me a certain percentage of usables, of miscellaneous things. So things like salt for seasoning, pepper for seasoning, oil for like neutral oil for cooking. If you would add all those things into your recipe making, your work would be doubled. So a lot of times it's much easier to take a certain percentage and add that onto your cost, like 2-3%. And in this, you include exactly this: the like little knob of butter that you throw in at the end to glaze your vegetables, the squeeze of vinegar that you use to deglaze the pan. That's like incorporated in there. And so this table does everything like that for me.
Yeah, like what I would do as well is adding a 10% of margin error. Like you're just assuming one of each 10. Somebody will eat it. It will be returned. It will be whatever. And at the end of the day, you have that calculated. That is something that can happen. You can also learn on the go, like which is your real error margin. But at the end of the day, it's better to be safe than not. Like it's better to be a little bit more expensive and have your cost saved than just, like trying to play to have the most competitive price and at the same time, like being losing money because you're not calculating some things that are also part of the business,
Absolutely, yeah, totally. I totally agree with the margin of error. And it's really very beneficial to do this because you fact check yourself, basically, right? Us as chefs and as professionals, we often get caught up in sort of like thinking that we know exactly what's going on. But it's very important to fact check yourself because it's very easy to be wrong. You might be starting to make a dish and you're kind of like, oh, I love this. This is great. And then you start putting it together and you start adding up all the cost, and you're like, hold on a second. For this salad, I suddenly need to charge almost 30 euros or $30 or whatever. And you're like, I can't do that. Nobody's going to buy that. Unless you market it in a good way, unless there's like a premium ingredient that you want to put on, and then you can like sort of justify it. But you're kind of like, oh shit, like what can I do to make this happen? Because you can make a fucking amazing dish. If the salad costs 40 quid, nobody's going to buy it. And then it doesn't matter how good it was.
Unless you have a restaurant, the only restaurant in an airport, people will buy it.
That's very true. And that is the, exploitation that people do at airports. Like water bottles for like 8 euros,
Yeah.
Like 300 milliliter water bottles.
Phil, did you know we've already made 9 episodes of The Line?
Oh, really? People sure love our crazy abuse stories working in restaurants.
Yes, they do. But now we're interested in our listeners' stories.
Oh, yay! I would love to listen to more crazy stories about people getting abused in restaurants.
So, if anything crazy ever happened to you working in professional kitchens, if you want people to make fun of your disgraces the same way we make fun of our disgraces, send us your stories from The Line and we'll feature them on the show. DM us on Instagram, send it as a text or voice note. We'll share our favorite ones in the next The Line episode. So keep it short and sweet.
Because trauma brings people together.
You were talking about restaurant technology. So a few things about pricing. I think you're just saying, the price has to be common sense. Like it doesn't matter what you calculate and what was in your mind. If it's completely out of the average in the market, you're doing something wrong. Even if it's too cheap, or if it's too expensive, like you should check on that. If it's too cheap, you're probably charging too cheap and you could add a little bit more price to that. So this was one of the tech tools that I liked the most in the last years. It's a Spanish startup that is called Dynamite. And what they did, he took technology that already existed, like for airport, like flights pricing, like flight pricing or hotel pricing. This is like an old story that the same flight will be more expensive on high season and cheaper on low season. So these prices are, like they fluctuate regarding the offer and demand, right? Same thing in hotels. Well, this guy applied this to restaurants. So he would connect this software to the booking system and to other systems. And so basically the way it works is if the restaurant is completely full, some prices get a little bit down. And if or the other way around, exactly. If it's completely empty, everything gets cheaper. If it's completely full, everything gets a little bit more expensive. And this would make like an increase at the end of the month, just playing with that, and also it has these systems that like natural things that, for example, you're at the pass in a restaurant and you communicate with your head waiter and you say, I want to get rid of this ox cheeks, like I have 2 more portions, sell them. Like this kind of dynamics, the chef could do it like directly through the app and it would appear like first thing on the screen when you open it. But yet again,
Nice.
this is not like for every concept. I think having a digital menu on a fine dining is lame, for example. But on a burger place, it's perfectly fine. Like it depends on what the concept it is. And I think that's also like a handicap of many digital tools, especially towards the guest, that, you want to feel the paper and some other things, and you don't want to be playing around with an app or a tablet without interacting with the people. Nobody ever would choose a cocktail vending before a mixologist, like a barman or a bartender catering you. Completely different experience, completely different story,
Yeah, that's super, super interesting. And it makes total sense. And without this sort of app, the importance of front of house comes in. Having a good front of house team is it's a golden goose. If you work with professionals that you can have a symbiosis with as a chef, it's fucking amazing. They get excited about specials that you do. They understand how to write the perfect check. How many restaurants have you worked in where they talk about the perfect check? And everybody's striving, obviously, for the business to have the perfect check. It's like a nice full check. It's a good bill, but also for the experience of the customer. It's really good. And like with this like costing, or you're saying sort of like when dishes are too cheap, you can charge a little bit more. And it's an interesting point because the way that I've learned it is that if you have a menu, right, there's different categories of dishes on the menu. There's a lot of people that are way more into this than me, but it is like even if you're not trying to do it, it is kind of what's happening. But if you're smart about it, you can set your menu up. It's really, really good for business. So there's some dishes that have like a wow effect, but they don't give you like a lot of revenue. They don't make a lot of money, right? But there's other sort of like carrier items that are very popular, but really low cost that kind of like bump it up. And so these items that are cheaper, but that you can sell at a higher price, they enable you to put things on the menu that maybe aren't really cost effective, but they're interesting, they're exciting. Right? So for example, say, hey, I want to make a whole grilled turbot in my restaurant. And you try to source a nice turbot, you try to get the right size, and you're like, fuck, man, if I sell this turbot, like I have to sell it for like 150 euros per portion, otherwise I'm not going to make any money on it. And you're sort of like, okay, well, what would people be okay to buy? What can I charge without making minus, right? And then maybe you get sort of like, okay, I can sell it for 110. Still expensive, but like 4 or 5 people can share it and it's fine. And then maybe you entice the people to order like a lot of sides with it. And these sides, they're super cheap. You have like a sweet potato dish, you have like, a cool like grilled broccolini dish or some like asparagus here, there. And you can like upsell, you have like truffle fries that people could push with it. And it like balances it out, and people are going to come, they're going to be like, oh man, where the fuck can you get a whole grilled turbot like this? Unless you live in the Basque Country, not that many places. And even there, not that many places, right? But they're like, man, that was fucking amazing. And because you kind of sold this like big package, you had a wow factor, but you equaled it out with all the other dishes, they're going to leave feeling like they had a very special experience, which they did, and they're going to come back. And they're going to advertise your place to other people, and that's how your business grows.
So I found that this is from a website. So it's a menu engineering idea, a concept. There's this matrix where you have you balance dishes that are more popular or high in popularity or in profitability. So there are 4 animals. You have dogs, are low profit and low popularity. Then you have puzzles, they're high profit, low popularity. Plow horses, low profit, high popularity, and stars, high profit, high popularity. Then I think you should balance. You can always have some of each. For example, if you have like a dish where the profit is very low, but it's super popular and people go for that reason, you should keep the price that way. You should make it more expensive because, as you say, it can work as a like the reason people go there. And it's like a marketing thing incorporated into your offer. I can always think about crema catalana. You know what? I remember crema catalana is so ridiculously cheap to produce. It's basically, you're selling milk, like milk with sugar and some flour. And it probably costs like 20 euro cents the portion, and you will sell it by 250, and it's like a decent or more, like. What about the buying? How do you handle buying?
Well, I mean that kind of depends where you are, I think. I mean, like whenever I was in a kitchen, depending on where I was in the world, I have to like adapt to the local market, right? There's some places where certain things are much cheaper and certain things are much more expensive. You need to kind of know the market, right, of where you are. So it's very, very viable to be sort of like, okay, if I buy these potatoes at this price and I want to make, let's just go with the example of French fries. I want to make French fries, I have to charge this much. Well, how much do French fries over there cost? And over there, and over there, and over there. And why, how much volume do they do to justify that price or like whatever? And where can I position myself? Do I position myself in value? Do I position myself in quality? Right? So I've always been a very, very privileged team of we're going to choose quality and we'll charge a little bit more rather than do cheaper and do more, You cannot skimp on ingredients. I think buying the ingredients is probably the most important thing in what makes your dish good or not, in my opinion. There's many examples that I could name you can like twist around and this and that and blah. But I think 90% of the time, unless we're talking about some really niche cooking places that can, like for example, in Mugaritz, they're like, I heard when I was in Mugaritz, people were saying stuff like the ingredients of the quality of the ingredients doesn't really matter that much for what we do.
Makes sense for what they do, because they're not offering flavor, for example.
Not necessarily, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have some dope product at some point that across the menu, that you have something that is absolutely unique in the world and top quality and top price as well. But yeah, I understand that they use like normal vegetables for whatever, like.
If you've experienced, cooking where the ingredient is at the number one place, and food produced by somebody who understands that and gets the essence of things out, it's amazing. It's like transcendent, and there's not a lot of places where you can experience this. But for me personally, as a chef, that is what people should strive for. I think the ingredient should be a number one. And there's so much, like talking about costing and all that sort of stuff. There's this like ego aspect, right? As a chef, you make something that you like, and then you make it and you check it, right? How do you check it? You cost it. Does it work in a business sense? You'd be surprised. Not a lot of chefs are able to do that. It's fair enough. Nobody really shows you as a chef. You kind of have to figure it out. You have to have a great mentor.
Well, today I think you can use ChatGPT for it. It won't give you like precise things, but if you give them the inputs of the price you paid for the ingredients, it can get very close enough to be like a valid, like it's not eyeballing. It's a little bit better than that. So it's something, but you should always be skeptic for whatever an AI tool does.
Absolutely, yeah. But so like you say, you make a dish, you cost it out, you're kind of like, fuck, I have to charge way too much. I can't really justify this. It's kind of like, well, what do you have to do? Can you scale it somehow? Can you change it? Can you do a little bit of this? Can you compromise somewhere so that it does work? And then the second thing is kind of like fact checking it against the customer, because you might really like something, but does your audience like it? And that, at the end of the day, is the most important thing, right? And I feel like a lot of people, they don't do this. Chefs are often so ego-driven. They make this thing and they're like, oh, it's so interesting. It's so this, it's so that. This technique, this like fucking little thing is so cool. And then like nobody orders it, nobody likes it. And it's a very good exercise as a chef to make things. The way that I do it, I serve things as a special, right? I put it on as a special. I tell front of house about it. I do a tasting with them. I tell them the details about it. They taste it. Hopefully they like it. They get excited about it. People are simple, you give them something to taste, they get excited about it, They're like more likely to sell more of it, right? So if you want to sell something, give them a taste and they're like, yum, 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 so tasty.
Exactly. And that taste isn't the 10% you calculated, so it's already part of it.
And then run it as a special, and then tell front of house, so hey, please, I need feedback on the dishes. So when somebody orders the special, do get some feedback on it. And if the feedback's not good, let it go or work on it, because that's the whole point, right? The whole point is like to give it to people, not for you to sit there and eat it yourself. And I'm so surprised on how many people struggle with this. Kind of like, I really want to, I'm hanging on to it so much. It's like, no, people don't like it. People don't want it. Let it go, man. Or find a different approach. Find a different combination, a different plating. Maybe instead of having it as a big main course, make it a little snack. Like, oh, you wanted to serve sweetbreads as a main course and nobody's ordering it? Well, I don't know, Obviously, what big part of our function as professionals is to educate people gently, right? Not everybody's going to order offal if they've not grown up with it, right? We can gently bring it to their attention and be sort of like, hey, maybe try this, give it a try. Hey, you know what? I'll bring you a small portion. You can try it. Maybe next time you want to order it, right? And that's how you educate people in a kind way, not in an entitled way. But, maybe they didn't want to eat a main course of sweetbreads. Make it a snack. Make it a small bite. Grill it. Put it on a toast. I don't know. Put it into a framework where it's more digestible to people.
I think I've told this story before of my friend Raul Roman, who is a chef in Paris. He was working in his own restaurant that made it to the Michelin Guide at some point, and he served anticuchos,
Yes.
And somebody called him and said like, wow, this is so nice. It's really tasty. I've never had this before. And he said, because I made it with the heart.
That's really
But
funny.
he didn't say what it was, like this is something I've seen millions of times in culinary schools projects where they serve cow's heart because they think it's so crazy and creative and modern and different. And they find out that nobody likes it. Nobody will order it. It's like a very niche thing. And you can't put that on a menu just like that. Like you really have to know what you're doing in order for something like that to be sold. You have to be like St. John or like an old fall restaurant or having an old fall event or something like that where people go for that, people who like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the way that you market things and that you brand things is so extremely important. The same thing like can be rejected, but you give it a different coat of paint. And if you know how to do that really well and kind of you know how to navigate your concept and your style, it's a very, very good skill to have.